I am your host, that dude named Dave. And as always, I have next to me Jorge. How's it going, man?
Doing great, Dave. How's everything?
Hey, man. Can't call it. Can't call it. Can't call it.
All right, back to the show.
Yeah. Back to the show. I'm being goofy here right now. As always, everybody, people, you can check us out here. Like and subscribe. Boxing Out Podcast. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put this on routine. It's on the screen. Boxing Out Podcast. Click like and subscribe. YouTube, if you're not watching it, here. Also on Spotify as well, if you only have the audio version. And I'm putting on the screen here. If you need to, or if you're already on there, download the Barn Burner and Zingo app. We're on channel 250 as well as the audio version there as well in Canada. Shout out to our family out there giving us mad love. Barn Burner and Zingo. Hey, that's where you can find us as well. Also for me as well, you can check me out Wednesdays 8 p.m. Central Time on Jump Off Live YouTube. Jump Off Live's the show. What about you, Jorge?
Sure. Twitch TV live underscore Dominoes. We have shows that run on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Casual Dominoes with great players. Tuesdays try to be more competitive than Thursdays and Saturdays, where we get a bigger roster, but they are a little bit more on the casual side. Want to have a good time, but there's some competitive matches that we try to feature on the main screen there. So catch
All
us there
right.
Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 8 p.m.
Good stuff. Good stuff here. So let's get this show going here. So real fast here. We'll talk about some personal stuff here. A little bit of a set change. Minor.
Minus a change. Looks
Yeah.
like you've redecorated,
Just do a little bit.
redecorated back, then redecorated again, and then
Yeah.
put it back again, and then I think you did it for a couple days.
Yeah, I'm gonna
But
say
it felt right.
yeah, podcasts are hard, man.
Uh, Directing's hard, and then if you're OCD,
I'm OCD.
it's a pain in the ass to go back and forth as many times as you did. But I believe you there.
Yeah, if you're on Spotify, you can't see this, but if you're watching this on YouTube or on the Zingo app, like I've been going back and forth trying to get this show off the ground here and setting up. And it's one thing if you just get a mic, turn your laptop on and get it going. Another thing where like you have a vision. So my vision is boxing and I hope you guys like it. Yeah,
It,
Red Dungeon Studios. We're getting there.
yeah, paint the town red. That's the kind of feel that I get from it. I'm a big comic book fan, so that theme is it's a popular one. Paint the town red.
So let's get into it here now. Uh the top dog in boxing. We've been talking about him a lot lately, but since we've been doing this show, he's been in the news lately. He has confirmed that he's gonna fight 3 times in 2021, Jorge. 3 times for the top dude in boxing?
I'd say he's confirmed it. Whether COVID allows that to happen this year,
True.
I'm hoping that it doesn't get in the way. But it's all kidding aside, assuming that COVID is kind of out of the way this year, it's gonna be exciting for him to fight 3 times. It's the last time I think Canelo fought 3 times like that was early parts in his career when he was on his way up.
Yeah.
Right in the last couple of years, he's been more or less falling back towards the Mayweather blueprint. Fight once, twice a year. Fight in the days that you want to fight in May and September, and just take it easy for the rest of the year. So for him to say that he's going to fight 3 times this year in 2021, I'd welcome it. It'd be nice to finally get a fighter of his caliber on the main stage 3 times in 1 year instead of having to wait for that 1 or 2 days out of the year where it might be against somebody that I don't know if I'm really interested in him fight that guy. I mean, I'll get it wrong. We'll talk about the fight he's going to fight this year. Not sure I'm too excited about all 3 of them. Maybe 1 or 2 of them. That might be some intrigue. But let's start running down the fight list he's got.
Yeah, so let's just be honest here. The fights are all not going to be exciting. There's politics involved. So I respect him for doing a quick turnaround. He just fought in December, like we just talked a few episodes ago, beat the crap out of Caleb Smith. And so now he's coming right around in February. Now he's going to fight Avni Yildirim.
Yildirim.
Yes.
Avni Yildirim. You did a pretty good job there. That wasn't bad.
That's probably the best time I pronounced it since I brought him up before we started talking to dudes.
I have high standards for you. You did a good job in pre-meeting to get that better. Good job.
Thank you. So he is the WBC mandatory. To let everybody know, he took the step aside money so that Canelo could fight Caleb Smith. And this is a fight that I see as more of a tuna fight. He hasn't fought in close to over a year, almost close to 2 years right now. I have my notes wrong, but I believe his last fight he actually lost. So it's one of those things where that he lost, he was, and then people lose, and then how the boxing rankings are, you lose, and somehow you keep moving up when you lose. The longer you don't fight, that's actually good. In these sanctioning body
Exactly.
rankings. So he was able to chill for a second, then he became they did a mandatory, but then Canelo jumped to 168, and he was like, hey, I'll take a six-figure paycheck the wait a few more months for this fight here. So now he's on the docket. WBC mandatory. I see Canelo probably stopping this guy in like 8-9 rounds max. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, unless he fights some masterful game plan, I have to see the fighter. So I'm not gonna say that I know a lot about this fighter.
Mm-hmm.
So
I understand that.
I probably have to dig around to see if there's anything about him that would make me feel a certain way or not. Other than that, I don't see how Canelo doesn't get through this fight without a knockout, TKO somewhere. Then again, who knows? I mean, if this guy's got a good chin,
I mean,
it's possible.
he's at 168 though, so Canelo moving up. I mean, he's not moving up, but he's been moving up. It's not like he's a natural 168, or like I said, and a few episodes ago, he started off at 147, so he's been constantly moving up. And so when you get to the bigger weight classes, sometimes your power can't translate to everybody. So it may go 12 rounds, but it could be a 12-round destruction, like he did with Caleb Smith, and before that too of Rocky Feldon. If Rocky Feldon was a 160 pounder, he probably would have stopped him. Same thing with Caleb Smith as well. So, you get to the bigger weight classes, these guys are bigger, more sturdier, and they can take your power. So maybe I look at it as a stoppage. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just a 12-round destruction, 12-0, like I said, the last fight here, basically. Yeah. But he looks at him to the point where it's February and he's going to be ready by May. And so disregard that one. I shouldn't say disregard, but that's not the meat and potatoes fight. The May fight that he's looking at is Billy Joe Saunders.
Yep.
Billy Joe Saunders has the 168 belt, once WBO belt at 168, and that fight almost happened at 160, and it was supposed to happen last year, but COVID, and then those other times it was supposed to happen, but Billy Joe actually had steroid issues. He did test positive, but the UK has some testing organizations and stuff fall through the cracks, and he just didn't fight. That was his suspension. He just didn't fight. He just chilled for a second, then went to 168.
Well, actually, if you think about Billy Joe Saunders, he's kind of chilling out there, even at 160. If you think about it, I mean, Billy Joe Saunders is the name has been out for a couple of years now. Back when 160 was a hot item, when Triple G was prior to Triple G even fighting Canelo at the time. So it was there was some anticipation that Triple G and Billy Joe would actually get in the ring. There was even some anticipation that Canelo and Billy Joe would actually fight at 160. And
it was close. And it was so close. They were like at the finish line.
And it's in both cases. I think interesting enough, I think Billy Joe had a title at 160 as well, and just kind of like
WBL again. He held the WBL belt at one time there as well.
It's kind of he's a character.
Yes,
that is. I don't know whether to take him seriously or not, because this guy
he can fight.
He can fight from when I can see him fight, which is God knows when he fights. But but the fights that he should have been having within the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years, between 160 and 168. The fact that he hasn't fought Triple G or Canelo at any point of those it's kind of baffling.
Well, timing and his own worst enemy. Like I said, the best win when he beat up David Lemieux.
Yeah.
Like David Lemieux was set up to fight Canelo. Oscar had it set up. He held the belt at 160. He had the IBF belt for a while, but he's a big 160 guy, David Lemieux. He never, at the end, he's haven't been able to make weight for a while. But when David Lemieux fought Billy Joe Saunders, it was a beat down. I mean, he's cagey. He's a southpaw. He uses his jab effectively. He's a big guy, so he really gave him that work. And so it would be a really, really good fight for Canelo. I just look at it that Canelo's just still too strong. But I think Canelo just goes to the body and just peppers him up, and then it takes him to deep waters in the second half of the fight, the way I look at it. But he will have some problem with his boxing skills, being that he's southpaw and he uses his distance well.
So and it's interesting you said about the Caleb Smith fight, right? He didn't knock him out. He hurted him. He beat the crap out of him, but he didn't knock him out at all throughout the entire fight. And I think a lot of people need to understand why that is with Canelo, right? So think about it this way, right? If you're a big junior middleweight, meaning that you might be walking around at 168, 170 pounds, but you're able to lose the weight at ease to get to the 154 limit, the 160 limit. If you're making the weight and then you rehydrate on fight night, say you're fighting a 160, you're fighting a middleweight fight, and you're walking around weights at 175, and you were able to lose the 15 pounds to make the weight. You're rehydrating pretty close to the weight you were walking around with at the time. So meaning you're not only are able to take punches against against a regular middleweight, you're probably able to do more damage because you've rehydrated and added on some more weight. Now that he's basically fighting at a weight class that is natural to him, he's actually fighting against natural guys at 168. So his power, I'm not surprised he didn't knock up Caleb Smith. I'm not surprised at all. And
big sturdy guy.
And I will say
and
this.
He's going to 175 too now. He just announced like literally before we did this show. I forgot to tell you this. He's moving to 175 now.
Caleb Smith, right?
Yes.
So basically,
big guy who's draining himself down.
Exactly. So think about it this way, folks. When you think about Canelo Alvarez, if he doesn't knock out anybody at 168, you should not be surprised at all. He's going against guys that are legitimately fighting at the 168 weight class. When they rehydrate, they're rehydrating to his weight as well, right? There's going to be no discrepancy. They're both probably walking around at 175. So when they both come to the ring, they are 168 and rehydrate back to their natural weight. This should be, in other words, Canelo doesn't have that advantage that he used to have in the past against other junior middleweights and super middleweight and regular middleweights, where he would actually rehydrate higher than the weight than they actually came to rehydrate with. So this, I think with Billy Joe Saunders, I think you're right. I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I don't think he knocks him out.
No, I don't think so either.
I think Billy Joe makes. I think it goes 12 rounds, but I think Billy Joe could make it an interesting fight. He's got some power to him. In other words, he's got power that he's knocked out super middleweights at 168. I don't know if Canelo hasn't proven that yet. That's not to say that Canelo won't win the fight. I'm just saying if I had to pick one or the other to knock out somebody, I'm going to go with the guy that I've seen before do it. But I don't think he happens. I don't think it happens. I think Canelo wins this fight.
Yeah, I think it's the same blueprint. Canelo's going to the body, going to just wear down your core. And then when he gets to the deep waters again, you're going to be forced to try to headhunt Canelo because it'll be a tied fight by 6th, 7th round, but then he wears you out. So you're trying to go for the knockout. And then at that point, then it's a wrap.
Billy Joe needs to have a good game plan. That's all. He just needs if he has a good game plan, a good solid training camp where conditioning is great and they've got a solid game plan that might alter the way he currently fights right now. Right. I mean, everybody's kind of built in their way, they fight in their way. But if you're not willing to make adjustments at this point in your career, you're not looking to win a fight anymore. You're just basically looking for the paycheck, and you're stubborn in your ways, in your way of thinking. If you're thinking that the way you fight is going to work, sometimes you need to make those adjustments. I'm hoping. I mean, and as a fight fan, I'm hoping for a challenge. I want Canelo to be challenged. To me, if you're at that weight class, I want you to be challenged. You've knocked out guys that you were expecting to knock out, or at least provide some problems because you were coming in heavier. Now you're fighting guys that are definitely beating you at the fight with the same weight. So I expect a different challenge, and I want to see someone give him a good challenge. So Billy Joe's a good fight to watch. I'll definitely be watching that fight. Definitely a fight to look at.
And then the plan is Cinco de Mayo because it's not official, but they're saying that Canelo signed a 2-fight deal. So Avina is with Eddie Hearn, as well as Billy Joe Saunders.
Sure.
So it just makes sense for him to stay on DAZN right now because, the last fight in December was on DAZN because all the drama of Oscar. So he's like, okay, they're going to cut me a check. I get to do this here. Cool. Let's try to get some sort of stability again for all the crap that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, they're going to cut the check here. Let's get this mandatory out the way. Boom. Billy Joe Saunders. Boom. Then September, Mexican Independence Weekend. That's the weekends that, those 2 main dates that he gets. So what is planned is Caleb Plant, IBF champion.
So Caleb
PBC banner.
So Caleb Plant's an interesting fighter. He's doesn't have that many knockouts. So he's got 25, 12 knockouts. Usually in my book, if you're a potential knockout fighter, you're usually at the 90% clip. Right. So, I mean, I would have expected maybe 17 knockouts, and I might have been like, okay, this guy might do some damage in this fight. He doesn't. So I see him as probably a fight that goes 12 rounds. Again, another super middleweight. I don't see the fight going, getting knocked out early. I see the fight going all 12 rounds. Caleb Plant's got a fight with, I believe, Trow in January 30th. So you guys we'll see him and get a taste of what he is. Yeah, he's fighting Plant versus Trow. That'll be on January 30th at super middleweight. So current title holders, former title holders, I would say you'll get your first taste of that fight. I think if Plant wins that fight, then it will be Plant and Canelo in September. And And like I said, I'll watch Caleb Plant. I've seen him before. I'm going to see him again in the end of this month. And my gut says he probably wins this fight, but I don't see him winning the Canelo fight either. He just doesn't have the knockout power, and it'd be a battle of styles. And if he's willing to make adjustments, like I've mentioned about Billy Joe Saunders.
Caleb's just a good, solid fighter. Nothing
Yeah.
special about him. He's good old faithful on the menu. You know, like if you like fettuccine Alfredo, you know, you just can't go wrong with it. I guess everybody, it could be bland, but you still can get the job done. He's kind of like that. You know, nothing special. I think he has like 12 knockouts.
12 knockouts in 20 fights.
I've seen him fight a few times as well. No one that makes me say I need to turn the TV on and watch Caleb Plant. You know, but good, solid guy. IBF champ, but once again, it's just there's levels to the game right now. Canelo's here. Everybody's here right now. There is, I mean, when we look at 168, this is his most comfortable weight, and it looks like he's just gonna, you know, I really commend him. He's going after all the belts. He got to get the mandatory out the way because that's politics. Otherwise, he loses the WBC belt. I'm gonna fight this guy in less than 2 months. Get him out the way. Then let's get back to my money weekends. May and September. All right, WBO, IBF. And if he pulls it off, he gets all the he will be the undisputed, you know, unified champion, and he's going to campaign at 168. And with him not having a broadcast partner, he's going to be able to do his mandatories and be able to do what he wants until he feels like I don't want to deal with these belts anymore.
Exactly.
And I don't see him going to 175 right now. You know, I mean, he said 68 is him for right now. He might do 175 for a spot shot here, but I see him using this as, you know, making history.
I think 168 he's going to campaign there, not just after the belt. I think he's going to be there for a while.
Yeah.
Well, mainly because there's nothing at 175. He already fought Kovalev at 175. That was the money-making fight that he wanted to make at 175, and that was the last known name at 175.
Right.
At this point,
he had name brand, but he wasn't name brand as far as fighting anymore. But
he wasn't name brand. Yeah.
Put him on the resume. Get that belt.
Exactly. So at this point, there's nothing at 175. Like, honestly, I think Canelo said, I'm going to 175 after winning all the belts. Dan's partners are going to be really crappy. They're going to suck. And it's not going to be, it won't be a good, like, tail end of Canelo's career to me, right? At 175. I think
175 when he's older, the weight, you know, like, he starts eating a little bit better. Maybe not as disciplined, you know. I just see him staying at 168 because of 160 as well. There's guys that's going to be, you know, they're still there.
He can leak over.
There's meat at 160. 160 is still hot right now, you know, even though he left it. So there's guys he can make come up to 168. So it's one thing to be at 175, making guys come up 2 weight classes. You know, like we talk about Jamal Charlo at one, you know, he's 160. You know, he easily can go up to 168. 175. You know, when you make someone like that go 2 weight classes, they can do it, but I'm like, nah. But he's comfortable at 168 Canelo. You can see the way he's physically fit now. His physique, his
weight drain doesn't matter anymore. He doesn't worry have to worry about losing too much weight. I agree with him campaigning at 168 for not just this year, but the foreseeable future. I can probably see him doing it for the next 2-3 years until either 170 starts buttering up with some better talent, or just maybe some of the talent at 160 gets up to 168 and then starts beating him there. I God forbid, like I said, I think I've mentioned it before, guys. I hate catch weights. I didn't like them back then. I'm not gonna like them now. So I like.
But they're part of boxing. They've been around since forever. Sugar Ray Leonard used them. He was notorious.
He
won a belt. He won the 168 and 175 belt at the same time because of catch weights.
If you watch maybe the last 10 years of boxing, starting with Floyd, Manny was guilty of this as well, and Canelo's doing the exact same thing. When you're the A side fighter on the money side of a fight, then basically using the catch weight to kind of use it to your advantage to
make a guy drain extra pound that he
either drain extra weight or
annoyance, it's gamesmanship.
It's honestly, God, folks, there's a reason why these belts exist at these weight classes. Fight them at the damn weight class. Like I said, I mean, back then the catch weights were there, but they were far and few. The last 10 years, they happen way too often, and mainly at the disadvantage of the opponent, right? The A-side fighter, whether it's to get you to lose weight to meet him at that weight or to gain weight to meet him up at that weight, I would hate for Jamal Charlo to actually go up to 168 if he's not ready for 168, right? To me, if you're gonna fight Canelo at 168, campaign at 168 for a couple fights before you fight Canelo. But if you got to fight him at a catch weight, I think Charlo's hurting himself and he's just looking for a paycheck. And to me, if you're Charlo, you're the heel. Hell with that, man. Be the heel.
Nah, know why? You could be the heel, but you gotta remember there's economics in here, baby. You gotta
Uh,
know who cut the check.
uh,
He making money, but that bigger check is Canelo.
yeah, and if
Everybody falls in line. Like everybody fell in line with Floyd. Everybody fell in line with Manny. People fell in line with Roy at one time. Mike Tyson when he had Don King, and they were paying pennies. The same thing. The A side they always fall in line, no matter how big the B side is.
A side,
unless the B side is A in A1.
And A side and heavyweight is different than I say the A side somewhere else and stuff, right? If you're a fighter at 168 and you cleaned out 168 and you got to force a guy at 160 who's competition to actually concede or give up and give you an advantage, at that point it's not even boxing anymore. He's like, hey, we're just here to make a check and stuff. You don't hurt me that much, I don't hurt you that much, and we'll do part two. I just like to me, you'll the casual fan may or may not get it. I get it, and it to me would piss me off.
I understand I'm messing with you. I understand why you hate the catch weights. Like you have a weight class, and if the guy wants to come in lower than that, but you have the maximum, like let's use 160 for example. He can come in at 156. I'm coming at 160. I hear that.
Yeah.
But you know what though? It's business and there's contracts, and if you really want that check, boy, these guys know how to make you want to go through hurdles.
No, exactly. It's like so to me, like so Charlo wants for example, Charlo wants to come up to 168, right? And say he'll fight him for 168, right? Canelo's gonna come in at 168. If Charlo's allowed to come in a little bit lower, 166, and that's good enough, I'm fine with that. That's not uncommon, right? I mean, they've seen.
But he's a big guy, though, so I don't see him worried about 168 for him as an example. Like him and his brother. Like his brother's at 154, 160, but at the end of their career, I see them both at 175.
Oh, yeah. They're both. I see them both getting there. I see one getting there ahead of the other. I hope, in some ways, I kind of hope. And they probably remind me of the Klitschko brothers at some point. Don't fight in the same division. Come on, bro. Don't.
They did for a minute though, because they both were at 154 and they both had belts, and then Jamal went to 160. I like the fact that you get one division, I get the other division.
Exactly, that I like
because
better.
The Klitschkos were in heavyweight, so you had literally Vitaly. Who had the WBC, and Vladimir had the other belts, and it was no fun because you're never going to see a unification.
And honest to God, guys, I mean, I watched those Klitschko brothers for a long time. Vitaly was the stronger guy. I love you. Like Klitschko's, respect y'all boxing game and stuff, but Vitaly's like kick your ass. I'm sorry.
If they ever
Vitaly was a beast.
If they ever fought, the older brother was going to beat the little brother.
Vitaly was a beast.
He was going to give him his
there was a super punch out game that was on the Super Nintendo. It was like the sequel to Mike Tyson's Punch Out. The last two fighters were the Bruiser brothers. One bruiser lost to the other bruiser, and that was it. Undefeated up top, the one lost at the bottom. That's what the Klitschkos were. They were the Bruiser brothers, and Vitaly was number one in my book. That guy was a beast.
That's what's up. So what's on the docket for Canelo, if we bring it back to him now, we're talking about him fighting 3 times this year.
Sure.
And there is a minor remote possibility he might get a 4th fight in December. Because one thing that we've noticed with Canelo is he tries to get a December fight in every year. Sometimes it's, it could be an easier fight, but depending on the circumstances, 3 is the number, and he got to make up that money too. I mentioned that on before we started recording, but he only fought once in 2020.
Yep.
He's about his paper. He don't have that 365 contract anymore, that 365 million. He only did 3 fights in that deal, ripped up, only fought once last year. So him fighting 4 times this year, it would be remarkable. At the same time, though, when you look at it, it's like, yo, I missed out on some money. I need to get this money back.
Yeah, he did that with all the fighters in 2020.
I respect it, though, because it's not cherry picking as well. I'm going to the point, like, he's doing this and he's not cherry picking because he has to do the February fight to keep his belt, so you can't say he's cherry picking. That's just politics. May, I want to unify. May and September. Then December, they're talking about maybe Triple G. And I mentioned maybe the Jamal Charlo, or maybe it could be the bum of the week. Either way, though, if you see the top guy fight 3 or 4 times a year, boxing fans, we're happy. That's what we want.
I'll take that. Like I said, 3, I thought was a great number. 4, I'd be ambitious.
Man.
That would be ambitious, but I think it depends on how he comes out of that. The tune-up, the first fight this year, I'm not worried about. Yeah. How he comes out of Billy Joe Saunders and Caleb Plant, right? I think if he fights all 12 rounds, I think he might rethink that December fight. If he comes out of those 2 fights knocking out guys, he might be feeling good about his weight and saying, you know what, I'm feeling good for that 4th fight. So I think the 4th fight, I think is right. I think it's speculative. I think he's going for it, but I think he's going to come out of that September fight and make a decision based on that. So I think
Mhm.
you won't hear anything about December for a while.
Yeah,
It'll be
yeah.
somewhere around at the end of that September
But
fight.
they have put that out there though. They are saying that there is a possibility, of course, injury. I don't see him getting injured against Caleb Plant. That's one of them. I mean, of course, it's fighting in boxing, anything can happen.
Sure.
But it's not one of those fights. It's not Billy Joe Saunders and Caleb Plant are not war fights. So you're looking at injuries if if you break a bone, throwing a punch a certain way, miscellaneous things like
Pull
that.
a muscle,
Yeah,
something. Yep.
but you're not worried about your brain or you're not worried about neurological issues when you fighting these guys here. You're just worried about just getting out of that fight. And so it's ambitious, but it would be so freaking dope if he pulls it off, man.
Hey, I mean, look.
Yeah, come on. Boxers don't have a schedule. Like the NBA, we see them put it out, regular season, preseason, regular season, playoffs. Same thing with hockey, same thing with football. Boxing, you get a scheduled fight, and then they got to recover, and then you got to wait to see the next dance part or the mandatories, and then you got to figure out the location, and then you can get a fight. Hopefully, you see them every 3 or 4 months, but the top guys twice a year, 4 times. Even if he just gets just three. That's boxing content for me to watch it down. It's like, yo, the top guys fighting that many times here. Give me that.
Yeah, I mean,
I wish the top guys would do that nowadays.
It'll happen, I think, for Canelo. I mean,
He's old school. He's throwback.
At the very least, Team Meat will get him there.
And like I say, he's throwback. He's knocking on 60 fights now. He's what, 30 now, 31? I'm sorry I don't got his age right, but he's in his early 30s now, and he's in his prime. And the fact that he's got close to 60 fights and he still is talking about fighting 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
That's, and then maybe he does this year, and then maybe next year he goes back to this May, September, and then the bum of the week in December. But still, that'll be 3 times next year, though, because he's used December as a date that normally most guys don't use that as a date, in the past. So I'm all for it. I hope he does it, and then it opens up the landscape because he cleans out these belt holders who don't deserve belts, and then he's like, "I'm the top dog," and then come at me, baby. I'm holding all the hardware. What do you want? 175. I'll go up there, and I just like the marketing aspect of it. Like, here's the undisputed junior super middleweight champion, and then he's fighting this guy here, or you got the undisputed against the light heavyweight champion. I just like to see that. Just for me, just it's visual. Just because the fact that boxing is so much into the hardcore, it's hard to get outsiders to come in and watch regular fights.
Yep.
They come for the small fights. Yeah, I mean the big fights, the big one, the pay-per-views. But when you can get guys like Canelo who can fight little guys or names that not like that, and then it generates interest in the sport when you fight more often, and we can get more eyes, and then we can get we get more fights then because there's more money in the sport. I'm just going to be honest. If more people watch the sport, that means more ratings, that means more pay-per-view buys, and that means more fights we see.
They don't build them the way they built Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. That means he's an Iron Man in my book for a reason. Definitely one of my favorite fighters growing up, and mainly because he fought. At least for you might be fighting bums, but I saw the man fight 6-7 times a year. I saw him fight a lot. So I mean, Tim, if you think about it, when you're a young kid and you're watching a man fight 30 times between the age of like 8 to like 12, I mean that's a lot of fights that you saw from a man that, you're fighting a bum, but that's how you know about the name, because he fought so much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and like I said, they don't build them the way they used to. Fighters don't think that way the way they used to. And to me, it's a shame because that's kind of the way I grew up watching the sport and stuff. So.
Yeah, so on that, we're gonna end the Canelo talk here. That's
Sure.
dope that he's doing that. We'll see what happens. Like I said, this is January. He's fighting next month. That's just so we were just literally talking about the Caleb Smith fight, and he's gonna fight next month. So that's really good. So let's pivot because it's Canelo's old boss we're gonna talk about now.
Oscar De La Hoya.
Oh boy. I mean, there's so many ways that we can go to Oscar right now, right?
I think Oscar by himself deserves a show when we're talking about the combination of his fighting career, his promotional career, and there's been a rise and fall on both ends of the spectrum there. Man. But let's keep this one strictly to what he's planning to do lately, right?
Yeah.
So if you stick to what he's actually going through right now, the man's in training. Oscar De La Hoya, the man is, I believe, 47, I believe?
About 47.
And he is training folks to get into the ring again. And speculation that he's actually thrown out there is getting to the ring with Triple G and Canelo. But there is a name that's come up, and I actually wouldn't mind watching it again. And I think he wouldn't mind getting in the ring with him either. And that would be Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah. He's throwing a lot of names out here, right? So one thing let me preface too, he hasn't started sparring yet. He started working out to get the weight down.
Yes.
So you got to get the weight off first before anything can happen. You're gonna hurt yourself trying to be a fat slob trying to hit. So he's trying to get the weight off. And let's break it down here. Like the Floyd. Oh yeah, that's so freaking interesting. The first thing that came out was Marcus Medina. That was the first
Yes,
thing.
that's the one you brought up in the
I
pre-meeting.
brought
Yep.
that before we started, and he was all in for it because he fought Floyd twice in 2014, and he has not fought since. He got them 2 Floyd checks, went back to Argentina
and had a blast.
and he's gained about 70 pounds. He's eating that tainted meat down there, boy. He's eating steaks, and oh boy,
he'll need tainted meat to lose the weight too.
Oh my god! And then when his name came up, he lost about 40 pounds.
Yeah, because he knows there's money there.
Yeah,
and honestly, I think that fight will still could happen. I just think he still needs more tainted meat to lose that weight. But back to the Mayweather. So
let me get to that. Sure. I'm gonna lead to that. I'm gonna get to that. So Medina came, and that was the first name, I guess, to get. You know how people leak stuff to see what people think.
Sure.
So Medina came out, and then no one really talked about it, but everybody's like, "Oh yeah, if he's in shape, he's gonna maul him." So then next, we heard Triple G.
Yeah,
that came up, right? And that mainly came up because of DAZN. The whole we're gonna talk on another show. The whole fiasco between Canelo's contract and Oscar and things of that nature, and DAZN wanted these big time shows and these fights. So the Triple G came up because of DAZN elevating their platform and needed something. So if they couldn't get Canelo Triple G and they heard Oscar Triple G, was like, yeah, get your ass whipped and we'll take that fight too. So that's how that came up, because DAZN was like, we need the viewerships and you effed up this contract.
And just to add on to that thought, right? So here's my perspective on the Triple G talk as well too. I think Oscar is entertaining that thought for a couple of reasons from a fight perspective. Triple G hasn't knocked out anybody in a while now. I mean, either they're quitting the last fight, the guy quit on the chair, and before that he didn't knock anybody out. So it's just, and then the Canelo fights, he didn't knock anybody out. So I'd say if he hasn't knocked anybody about 4 or 5 fights, for Oscar to kind of suggest Triple G, I think he's saying, okay, you know what? Maybe Triple G's not the same fighter he was a couple years ago. I might be able to take that punch now.
That's dumb logic.
It's dumb logic, but
because he could, he last time he fought, Manny Pacquiao gave him the ass whooping of a lifetime.
Of course. But I also
see what you're saying. But that's the only. But you know what though? Your logic is that's the cocaine talking.
That might be the cocaine talking from Oscar's point of view. That might be some hype men telling him the same thing as well too. But at the same time, again, if you're talking Triple G, and DAZN's kind of thinking the same thing too, and you have to be looking at Triple G and saying, do I really want to get in the ring this man? And maybe
Triple G is like, I'll take that tomorrow.
Exactly. Triple G will take that today.
He ain't got to train for that fight.
Exactly.
He'll be. I don't care when you say knockouts though, Jorge. That's knockouts against active freaking middleweight.
Exactly.
Middleweight. Oscar said that he would fight. He feels he's going to fight at 154.
Oscar, like I said, cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yes.
It definitely hampers your judgment and your thinking. And if he saw that throwing a few lines, I can see where he finds that logic. Mm-hmm. I agree with you. It doesn't make sense. It shouldn't make sense. But I can see where that might make sense to him in the right line.
Yeah, and DAZN might be pushing that as well because of the, like I said, we're going to talk about that another time, the Canelo contract fiasco and how that just blew up in their face. And who knows what happens to DAZN if they make it out of this? They still have Canelo around, but that's just bad how that just turned out all the way around. So Triple G's been mentioned, and then like what you said there. He even mentioned it didn't go anywhere. He mentioned there was Manny, but that didn't go anywhere.
No,
clearly
it shouldn't go anywhere.
It literally was like but everybody just chucked it off like that, right? Then there was Conor McGregor. That came up too. Conor McGregor's been linked to Manny Pacquiao because of what Conor McGregor and the money he made with Floyd Mayweather. And then what you mentioned now that we want to talk about here, which I see very realistic. Now we're talking about this. Nothing is in stone. Floyd is not even commented on this. This is just 2 friends talking about the cokehead Oscar De La Hoya, mentioned some stuff that he may want to fight here, and then Floyd Mayweather fight. When you look at it, he said he wants to fight at 154. Floyd fights at 154.
He can make 154 now. Probably walks around at 154 comfortably. So
he walks around like 162. And when he did the exhibition fights, like you could tell he's not Floyd. Working out regimen, but he's still super duper shape, Floyd. And like those instincts, the boxing reflex don't go anywhere. And he's got an exhibition fight in February against Jake Paul. Is it Jake or Logan?
Logan Paul.
Logan, yeah. Jake fought I think Robinson last
Mhm.
the other month. But yeah, he's fighting a guy that's like 190 pounds and 6'2". So Floyd out here fighting big dudes anyway. He don't care in exhibition fights. But we mentioned in the other shows about exhibition fights. So I want to get your take on it. I really think the fact that they're both the same weight. They had a fight that made a gang of money at the time, was the biggest pay-per-view of all time.
Yep.
Floyd is still relevant, not just in boxing, but in the world in general. The dude is, whatever it is that you think about Floyd, he is still relevant to this day.
He's a promoter. He's in boxing. He's not out of the sport. He's in the sport.
I mean, like Gervonta Davis is doing the work in the ring, but the reason why tanked because of Floyd.
Exactly.
From the bigger standpoint, I'm talking about, from the whole aspect, not just boxing.
Yep.
And you look at the fact they both hate each other. They still can't stand each other to this day, Jorge.
It'd be an interesting grudge match. I think there's plenty of money. To me, when there's a natural grudge between two ex-fighters who had already fought in the ring and they compete against each other as promoters, I think the grudge sells itself. The hype for that, you don't even need much hype.
All you gotta do is replay 24/7 from the first fight in 2007. That's what made Floyd Mayweather Floyd. People, if we were go back, Floyd is not money until that fight with Oscar in 2007 when they did the 24/7 reality series where Floyd went complete heel. The heel was starting, but that reality show put Floyd where we see Floyd today. If that Oscar fight doesn't happen, we don't see Floyd like this.
That's Floyd Mayweather heel on the map.
Yeah, Floyd is always going to be great. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, but Floyd is Floyd because of that moment with Oscar.
Yeah, and then be basically but I think this time he's not looking to be heel. He's full blown. I can't stand you, and I think the relationship is two ways on that one. I think they both dislike each other for many reasons outside and inside the ring. So I think that fight is, of all the celebrity fights that it would be doable, I think that is the one that is probably going to draw blood. I don't know how it doesn't draw blood.
Here's what's going to happen here. See if you agree with me on this one. This one's going to be $100 pay-per-view.
It's $100 pay-per-view, and I'd watch it and I'd happily pay for it. I might even go and travel with you to see it because I think you're going to need security to pull them off each other.
Yeah, that's going to be at $99.95 for the HD. You're not getting SD at $89. You're going to pay $99 for it. And I really see Floyd wanting to stop him like he did Conor McGregor in the 10th round. Like, let me just recap here that real fast, that Conor McGregor fight. He carried Conor McGregor that entire
to make that fight look appealing. He carried him the entire fight. I agree with you on that.
If you know Floyd, if you watch Floyd for 49 fights, that being his 50th fight, he did not use the Philly shell defense not one time. The shoulder roll defense. He came in as a traditional orthodox fighter and then just kind of just walked him down and just played the role. He didn't do anything, Floyd, and then walked him down and then finally said, okay, 10th round, let me end this here. I see him using the Philly shell defense to embarrass Oscar for about 5 to 7 rounds and then probably put him out by the 10th round. I really think he would try to embarrass Oscar.
I think
because it won't be a third fight. Like when this happens, it'll be it. But I see him making a quick $100 million to embarrass him and talk about how he's a cokehead. How he, as much as you want to talk about Floyd, one of Floyd's things is that he don't do drugs. Yeah, he doesn't drink alcohol.
Floyd's clean.
So the moral compass with Floyd is other stuff. But the one thing he said that you can say anything about me, but I do not destroy my body. What Oscar's done, and I think that he would want to put on an embarrassment of riches on him.
I think this is probably the first time. I think he trained for the Conor fight, probably didn't train the way he would normally train.
I don't think he trained.
I think he would get up and train for this.
I don't think he trained for Conor.
I think for Oscar, he
did what he normally does until he had to get down to the weight of 154.
Exactly. He did what he needs to do just to make the weight, and I think from there he was going to fight. He was never in fear of Conor. I'm not saying he's in fear of Oscar, but I think to your point,
be more respect though. It'll be a little bit more respect.
It'll be a little bit more respect because he's actually fighting somebody who's
a real boxer.
But
he felt this power before.
But he would also, to your point, because he wants to embarrass him, would get up and train for this fight, try to get to some defensive routines, get back to some of the right hand leads, trying to get his speed back to where it was before. Just enough, right? If he can get to like 80% Floyd for what he was before, that's good enough. And that will make the fight.
I think 70% Floyd.
Yeah,
60 easily.
Yeah, I mean, and this, and
Oh
this
my
is, and I
God.
know disrespect to Oscar,
Because
but when
Oscar
you
ain't
just
fought in 2008.
he fought exactly
12 years of ring
12 years of
rust.
ring rust, and he has
Cocaine,
cocaine as well.
alcohol, marital problems, just personal problems. You add all that stuff, and then you're trying to work out now and then. As much as we want to talk about Floyd, he at least fought 3 years ago, and like I said, his last real box was 4 years ago. So let's say his last real boxing fight was 4 years ago against Andre Berto in what was that 2016, 2015, whatever like that. Well, you can say 4 years to 12, 13 years. Hey, give me the guy who fought within the last, and then he's been fighting, even though it's not real boxers. These exhibition fights, like that Japanese kid who was like 120 pounds, like he got a quick 20 million out of that one. I ain't mad at him. That's just kind of ridiculous how you beat the crap out of that little kid.
And I got some requirements for that fight when Mayweather and Oscar, if they get in the ring again. And all respect to stupid stuff of that though. I'm gonna watch somebody like Jim Ross from WWE. I want somebody I wanted to get I want the Jerry the King Lawler. I want Jerry the King Lawler. I mean, I want some dramatics. I want some dramatics. I want some natural heels. Give me Bobby the Brain Heenan. I want some heels.
So after the fight, you want to see Floyd get the chair out?
Damn right. I want some heels. Give me the guys. Give me the heels. Give me some natural heel announcers and stuff, and I want them to enjoy. No, because at the end of the day,
bring Vince McMahon out.
Oh hell yeah, hell yes. I want it because to me, I think it's not even about trying to be the heel. I think they both like each other, naturally hate each other. So how is it you can't? They're gonna fight outside the ring.
Before this happened, Oscar was still taking shots at Floyd when there was no point even taking shots at Floyd. Like, I'm not trying to be a Floyd apologist here. They both going at each other. But there's times where I see Oscar take a shot at Floyd. I'm like, yo, where's the I didn't see this beef coming here. You must be in your bag right now. You and your feelings to go and just start talking stuff. Like Oscar would literally,
he did a line and some feelings came out.
He will literally just manufacture some feelings out of nowhere, out of left field. It's just so the word I was gonna say would be so offensive. I'm not gonna say it.
I will say this then. Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya for the hardcore title. Hell with the ring, hell with the ref. Hardcore title. Get the chairs.
We're gonna get the 15-foot ladder in the middle of the ring.
Ladder match, baby. Ladder match, baby.
No, we need tables, ladders, and chairs. Give me that TLC.
We're them Dudley boys. We're them Dudley boys at the table.
I ain't talking about no TLC, no 10-11 care. I want the tables, ladders, and chairs.
Yeah, I mean, they hate each other that much. That's how it should be. That as a fan, that's how it should be.
Yeah,
and I'd pay for that. I might even pay $120.
Wow.
And I'll go fly there to watch it. I want to see it.
I would go there, or I'll have the boxing party. You know me. I like to have boxing fight parties.
Yeah, no, this would be like me wearing like my phone on a head cam, just kind of chasing guys around, and just kind of like, I mean, it'd be great. I'd find it entertaining.
Yeah. So you know what? Do you think it will happen though? How about this?
I think it will happen. I think that one of the three guys that I mentioned there, I think that's probably the most realistic one. And honestly, if I had to pick an order for Oscar, if Oscar's really training to fight, and you mentioned Mayweather, Triple G, and Canelo, and I think the Canelo is the least likely one in my mind.
I don't think Canelo is going to give him the time of day the way that contract.
Exactly that, and that's for a different.
Yes, I just want to state that I just think that there's so much animosity between them two right now. No matter how much money is to be made, I just don't think that Canelo right at this exact moment don't want Oscar to eat right now.
Exactly, and so that would say right now. But I would say Mayweather would, because the money would be there.
Oh yeah, Mayweather's about the money. He wants to eat and then embarrass you at the same time.
Exactly. So to me, that's more realistic. I say Mayweather comes first, and then I think Triple G. I think he looks at that and says, "I want to eat too," and he'll make it happen. And then I think at some point Canelo's gonna say, "I want to eat some too," and he'll get it there. So Canelo doesn't want to eat now, but he'll want to eat later.
Let me do devil's advocate. What if Floyd looks at Oscar's Golden Boy promotion on the Lifeline and says, "You know what? If I give him this fight, it's going to save his promotional company. And as much as I can make $100 million, I can bankrupt his company, and then we just take it all. Me and Al having just take it all."
I think
that's devil's advocate.
I think it was the devil's advocate part, but I think
but Floyd's about his money. I don't think he worries about that because he don't got that many fighters. I'm looking at it from they hate each other so much, and just like F the money. I want to see you burn, because there's been situations where that Floyd and Oscar feel that way about each other. So that's just me playing devil's advocate, saying I want to see their company burn, and then when the company burns, maybe I'll fight you then, but you can't bring Golden Boy back.
See, now you sound like a WWE match right there, because instead of the belt being up at the ladder right there, it's the contract. They say, "You want my promotion? You want my company? Right there. I have it signed. It's at the top right there. Come get it.
Hey,
Come
man.
get it right
Hey,
there.
that's those advocate of me, man, doing that. I'm sorry,
So,
man.
I'll take it. I'll go with you on that one. I'll take it a step further though. It's got to be a ladder match at the very top, hardcore, hell with the refs. Whoever comes out with that contract at the end owns a promotional company. Because you know what? Because if that's going to be the case, Oscar's going to ask the same thing. Floyd, I need your contract up there too.
Oh,
Dave, I need your company there too. You get mine or I get yours. We'll put the pink slips up for sale. Come on, pink slips are up. Let's do it.
Pink slips are up.
I like it.
But like we said, because of Tyson and Jones, and now so we got Floyd fighting against one of the Paul brothers, and they're gonna do that, and Oscar talking again. I think, and of course now we're talks maybe Vanna Holyfield, Tyson 3,
Tyson 3, yeah, we
possibly. I think that now it's 2021. We're gonna see a little bit more of these going on here now, and I think Floyd and Tyson's gonna lead the way because Floyd still ain't stopped fighting yet. Like I said, he fought that young Japanese dude that shouldn't have happened, but he made a good bag. He's fighting again in February. We see Tyson here now, so we're gonna see these two lead the charge because Floyd's about his money, and Tyson's like, yo, I got nothing else to live for. So besides smoking his weed.
Exactly. So I'm and that's where I'm all in favor. If it's ex-fighters. Bring it on, guys. That's look. You got a guy like Foreman, you got like Hopkins fighting well into their late 40s. You still have it. You still have it to some degree. There's nothing wrong with that. I'll watch that, right? Especially if they're grudge matches like that one. That's entertaining. I think of all the matches of that, what would you find to be more entertaining? Holyfield Tyson or De La Hoya Mayweather?
See.
I'd have to say Mayweather, De La Hoya. That's a grudge, man.
So,
I don't know.
So Tyson and Holyfield are gonna fight in the middle of the ring. Tyson, we saw what he did with Jones, right? So he's gonna come forward and he's gonna fight. And so we know Holyfield's gonna fight too. So we know they're gonna go at it for how long that's gonna last, right? If it goes to full and it becomes a draw. The anticipation would be more for me for Oscar and Floyd. Only because I would think that Floyd would throw that lead right by the 4th or 5th round. It would just be an embarrassment of him just talking to him. He said, "You want coke now? You want to talk about me now? Who can't read? Huh? I can read this contract. 100 million, baby." I literally could see something like that where he's just walking him down. Like I think after a few rounds he don't respect Oscar's power, and this is probably the bad part of me of seeing Oscar want to beat the crap kick out of him again. First by Manny to put him in retirement, and then by Floyd to say, "Get the heck out and just start promoting fights."
Who's in Oscar's corner? Who's training him? What do you think?
Well, it ain't Floyd Senior.
Well, obviously,
yeah, because that ain't happening.
So, no, but think about it. Who do you think would be in his corner?
Nacho Bernstein's too old now. I think he had him for a while. I think he's just gonna hire some. I mean,
two names came to my mind. I think one likely more than the other potentially. I mean, it's either Freddie Roach or Nazir Richardson.
I was thinking Freddie. Nassim.
I think Nassim has some time still. I think he can probably.
No, he passed away.
You're right. Shit.
Yeah, you threw me off guard for a second. Wait, no. Yeah, he just passed away a few months back.
Damn, that's why.
Yeah. He has.
I lost track of that during 2020.
Yeah. He had some health issues, and I believe he had a stroke before all this happened, and he had serious health issues before the stroke as well.
We never talked about it at all last year.
Nah, we didn't. There was a period of time where that we were out of pocket for a second, work wise. But yeah, that bothered me. I know Bernard Hopkins talked about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, dude was a dope trainer, But that would be entertaining to see, a prime Nassim Richardson with Oscar in his corner, kind of like how. I look at that the same way, but in a more
July 24th, man.
Yeah, I would see that more as a disciplined corner than Floyd Senior and Oscar, because I was actually entertained with Oscar Senior. I mean, Floyd Senior and Oscar in the corner.
Oh yeah, that was entertaining.
And Floyd Senior is a great trainer. Like Floyd Junior is not here without his dad and his uncle. But remember though, his senior is the one that taught him the defensive style. It's Roger that made Floyd the offensive genius that he is too. The combination of both of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, maybe Freddie Roach. I mean, I've seen him recently. He ain't looking that good. I mean, he's still training, but he ain't looking that good lately. I mean, the Parkinson's really taken over now.
Yeah. I mean, Nazim Richardson was the only one. Man, I apologize, folks. I thought
2020 was such a year that so much happened that a lot of things that we kind of like it was a messed up year. We especially this past week and everything. So yeah, rest in peace, Prince Nassim. Favorite line: "Swim without getting wet." When
One
he
of my
told
favorite trainers. One of my
when he
favorite
told
trainers I
Shane
watch.
when he told Shane that, "Come on, Shane, swim without getting wet." And I was like, that's the first time I heard it, and I was like, that is such a dope line.
I mean, well respected trainer by all fighters. I mean, the
Died
second
too young too.
the second Cotto Margarito fight. I mean, he was he was with Cotto. Cotto asked him to be there with him, and I thought that was a great gesture to have him there. Watch the rapping on Margarito. Just a second, like no. We caught you the first time. I wanted this guy to catch you this time.
Right. Just like, I know we kind of sidetracked for a second here, but just for him to catch that, trainers, we don't give them enough credit for what they do. There's so many months that they're with their fighters that we only see when they're in the corner. But what he did when Cotto, like when you catch the hand wraps, especially with Sugar Shane Mosley against Margarito, he had
looking out for his fighters, and that
to be in there, plaster of Paris, people. That, I think, when we get to our best of boxing series, when we talk about that fight as well, plaster of Paris is basically drywall, people. He had patches of drywall that was wet, that was hardening in his wraps, so that by the time the 5th or 6th round came in, he literally would have had a wall in each hand punching Shane Mosley. And he caught that, had him rewrapped, and history is different because Shane beat the crap out of him, and he got the Floyd fight after that.
It's one of the rare times that you have revisionist history where you actually had to look back at Cotto Margarito 1 and say, what the hell was going on there? Because that didn't make any sense. You can even go back to even the second Daniel Santos Margarito fight. I mean,
oh man,
Kermit Cintron. You have to look at every fight before that.
Oh, we're going back now. Kermit Cintron. Oh my God, his career was ruined.
Yeah, I mean,
promising career, and I honestly think that his career was ruined by Margarito.
Exactly, and the reason I'm saying that is because
he never recovered from that loss. He recovered, but never recovered. His stature was gone.
I think some of the changes happened after Williams beat the crap out of Margarito and the unanimous decision win.
Yeah,
that's basically the less, for a tall fighter. I mean, that's my model guy, Paul Williams. How are you supposed to fight as a tall guy? Fight like that guy.
Mm-hmm.
That guy threw a jab and he peppered you with
6'1" welterweight. God
it.
dang.
That was my most feared fighter of the division.
Yeah,
I feared that guy.
2010, when you saw him, I was like, God dang, 6'1" at 147 and can go to 154, 160.
6'1" that can throw 100 punches every round.
Oh man, he was the black Margarito. When I say that, because you're tall and rangy, you can throw 100 punches around.
He made Margarito look small.
Yes, he did. And Nassim found the plaster of Paris and changed history, because I remember I had an argument with a coworker. Margarito should not be celebrated. He should be. I think we don't have the evidence. I wish we can just vacate all his wins, because we don't know how. The thing is, when you get caught cheating, that ain't the first time.
That ain't definitely the first time. And so to me,
it's just the fact the first time you got caught.
So to me, the retribution was Cotto beating him and Manny retiring him.
Yeah,
that was my retribution. I was happy with that. Mm-hmm. I hear what you were saying, but to me, that was plenty of retribution there. Cotto did enough. Manny finished the job.
So on that note, there, man.
Sorry about the sidetrack.
No,
but again,
that's what happens.
Trainers.
Yeah, we're talking. This is thing here with us. We're fight fans and we're friends in general. So there's so many fights that we've watched over the years, and then the fights that we talk about, we didn't watch together. So literally, certain fights will come together from new fights that we're talking about right now. Then how we can get sidetracked here. So that's what's going to happen, folks. We're going to talk about old fights, and stuff's going to happen. Like
exactly.
Or old trainers or situations like that come back to mind, that we want you to go on YouTube and check it out as well. If what we're talking about, go look at Margarito and Cintron. Cintron was highly, coming up the ranks, and then boom, and then you see Margarito with the loaded gloves. Because one thing real fast, we're going to end here. We'll talk about Manuel Stewart. He was training Cintron. And then they broke up after that loss.
Exactly.
He had the first loss from Margarito. Built him up. Cintron was knocking in.
He was a title holder.
Remember? He knocked out like 6 dudes in a row. He was on HBO like a world beater.
Kermit Cintron was a 95% knockout guy.
And then he fought Margarito again. And I was like, what was going on? It didn't make any sense.
Exactly.
It didn't add up. So, you know what, though? I'm going to say, so we're going to do a best of Margarito here, who doesn't deserve the shine. I'm saying that he's what's wrong with boxing, and we're going to showcase that Shane fight and how not Prince, like Nassim Richardson how
He was a prince in my book, man.
yeah,
That guy
yeah,
was awesome. That
yeah.
guy was a great
So
trainer.
the fact that what he did, he changed history because Margarito was on his way to being a guy that Aaron was promoting, being a Mexican fighter who was celebrated. If you watch that fight prior, how he had his homecoming, and then he just came and did what he's supposed to do for Shane, and Shane had the game plan and it beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, and one thing I say about Margarito before any of that happened, he never needed it. He never needed it. He never needed it. Even in his loss to Williams, it was a good showing. Could have fought by a better game plan. Williams is a hard guy, but he fought Williams when nobody wanted to fight Williams. So I give him that. After that, if we really had to revisit every fight he fought before the plaster and the loss, I think he was using it for Cintron. I think he was using it for the Daniel Santos second fight. And the reason there was a second fight is because that was a loss on Margarito's record before he started making changes in his, in the way he fought better, right? He was coming up, he won a title and stuff. So I think there's probably some fights I have to look at again and say, you know what, this guy was using it.
So people, that's the sidebar segment of this episode here. Talk about some old Kermit Citron, Emmanuel Stewart, Cotto, Margarito, all that stuff combined. That's what happens here when we talk boxing. Things can really get sidetracked, but it all relates to what we're talking about here.
That welterweight era, those 5-6 years that was gold. That was gold. 1 through 10, that was gold. You had guys in 1 through 10 and guys in 1 through 12 even there. You're like, okay, there's some guys coming up. This can make some noise. This is gonna be a fun division. And that is what we're, when we talk about, like, say the 130 pound, the 135 pound weight. I mean, there's some fighters there that could be legendary going up to 147. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to the next crop of guys that get from from the lightweights to the 130s, 135s up to 147 is going to be awesome. So I look for the next 5-6 years.
Yeah. So we'll bring it back in. We'll see what happens with Oscar. It's early. We're in January here. We'll see if he actually just talking the talk or if he actually does make a fight. Let's see if he does a tune-up fight and then he tries to go after a Floyd. I think he needs to do a tune-up fight because he goes straight to Floyd.
I agree. No, I agree. We talked about
either if he does go straight to it, then God bless him for getting an ass whooping and making about close to 100 million.
I hope it's a tune-up. I don't know who we'd fight for a couple rounds that I think would be an ex. To me, like I said, my criteria, an ex-fighter, couple rounds, and that's more for like Oscar to get ring rust off. Mm-hmm. If he can pull that off and win that fight in exhibition form or however, then I would be happy to see him fight Mayweather. And like I said, that, in my opinion, Mayweather, De La Hoya, for the promotional companies, on top of a ladder, hardcore, no rest, Jim Ross, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Jerry the King Lawler. I want it all. I want it all.
Oh Lord! On that note, we're gonna close it out because he's going WWE. I mean, next, I'm gonna have my $1 million belt sitting in the front for the.
Hey! You need that $1 million belt, and you need to get that intro for $1 Million Man to DiBiase. Money. Exactly.
Everybody's got a price.
Exactly.
Okay, people, we're gonna sign out of here. So as always, I'm gonna put on the graphics on the screen here. Barn Burner app as well as the Zingo TV app, channel 250 as well. So you can check us out there. Shout out to our Canada family. Audio, Spotify, Boxing Now Podcast, graphics on the screen there. YouTube, like and subscribe, Boxing Now Podcast. You know what I'm saying? Put that out here right now. Jorge, what you got?
Live_Dominoes on Twitch TV Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 8 p.m. to 11 o'clock, and some run a little bit later depending on the roster.
Yes, and also too, you can catch me on Wednesdays live on YouTube. Jump Off Live is the name of the show. Jump Off Live, Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Central. But on that note, this is the end of Boxing Now here. We'll be back next week. More boxing. Hopefully get some more fights, on the docket. If not, we'll just banter like we always do.
Nice teaser, guys, for you fight fans out there. Broner, February 13th. Yes, we'll talk more about that in the next coming episodes.
It's scheduled. It's on the books. Next episode, we'll talk about that.
And then, like I said, Caleb Plant and Trout on the January 30th. So we might even preview that before we get to that.
That's right. So for my man Jorge, I'm that dude named Dave. We are about to get out of here. So be safe, people.
Stay safe, everybody.